What about some of the things you can actually see when you're out and about? Some of the astronomical objects. Well, it'll be winter time, so you're really going to start with one object, the constellation of Orion. So you're always in the southwest. Can't miss it. It's a really prominent constellation. Kind of looks like what it's supposed to, Orion the Hunter. But if you want my advice, look at it in a slightly different way. You'll see it as a big H in the sky, and I kind of think it looks like the Harry Potter constellation. So you can really see Orion nice and clearly, and if you look really closely at the sword, or Harry Potter's wand as it dangles between his legs, rude boy, you'll see the Orion Nebula, and that's a star-forming region, millions of light years away, which you will be able to see with a telescope or some binoculars. So have a look for that. Start there. Now, just to the left of Harry Potter is a very, very bright star. Again, in the south, it's the brightest star in the sky called Sirius. So that's the way I kind of remember it, is that Harry Potter, or Orion, travels with Sirius in the constellation of the dog, funnily enough. And that's a very nice prominent star. Or if you put a pair of binoculars on it, it'll actually appear to twinkle very, very different colours. That's because it's so low down, the light kind of gets reflected and refracted off the atmosphere, and it kind of glows different colours. Just to the right of Harry Potter, or Orion, is another prominent constellation. It's a big V. Now, I always think that's the V for Voldemort, but actually it's the constellation of Taurus. And that's another good one you can kind of see. It's a big prominent red star on the top left hand corner of the V, and that star is called Aldebaran, and it's a red giant. And like the star in the top left of Orion as well, they are due to go supernova at some point. So if you're up here for a couple of hours, keep an eye out. It might go bang, but astronomically speaking, it could be hundreds of thousands of years. So I'm about to go through this gate here, back to the car park. I want to get through the other side and talk about some other things you can see in the northern sky. So some of the other constellations you'll be able to see at all these discovery sites at this kind of winter time. Some other prominent ones are going to be Cassiopeia and the Plough. Now the Cassiopeia is a good one because it's a big kind of W in the sky. I like to call it Hedwig because it looks kind of like it's in flight. And that's a really good object to kind of start with, because if you look at the second V of the W, it kind of points down to a fuzzy object in the sky, and you do have to be in a really dark discovery site to be able to see this. But you should see an elliptical cloud just under that kind of V, and that is another galaxy. That's the Andromeda Galaxy. It's about 2.5 million light years away and about a trillion stars. And you can see that with the naked eye. So if you really do let your eyes adjust, you will see it. And the other one to look at is, of course, the Plough, the Big Dipper, the Big Bear, also Hagrid in this case. That's a really prominent one to start with, and it's a good way for finding north. So if you ever need to know where you're going, look for the right hand two stars, or kind of the pan bit, and that kind of points in a direction further up into the sky till you get to the North Star. And that's the way the way that the stars all move around the sky. They move around that point. So it's never around the Sirius, it's always around the pole star. And finally, there might be the few little things in the sky that you can't really explain. Things that are slightly colourful, don't twinkle as much, or they're probably going to be planets. And the planets kind of vary from year to year, but I think this time of year you should be quite good for seeing things like Mars and Jupiter, Saturn and Venus. They're the main ones you're going to see depending where they are in the sky. So what I would do is do your homework beforehand, have a look to see what's out there before you go out, so you know you can see these things. But if it's quite colourful and it doesn't twinkle, it's likely to be a planet. And what I'll recommend is, if you have a pair of binoculars, is to take them up, have a look, because you sometimes can see the moons around Jupiter, which is amazing. And if you've got quite a decent telescope, or one that's got some binoculars that have got some power to them, you might even start to make out the colour bands around Jupiter, or even the rings around Saturn. And that, I should recommend you do that, because the rings of Saturn is one of those wow moments you can get when looking up in the night sky. So have a look out, you've got plenty to see, and good luck with it.